Here we are. Look at us. All right, kick us off.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Breakfast with Disaster. It definitely feels like fall out here in Western New York, doesn't it?
It's a little chilly. Yeah, I'm not loving it.
No, I know. Last 2 weeks, it kind of feels like summer just kind of abruptly ended, you know? So, pretty crazy. But, Dan, welcome back to the show.
Good to be here.
Where have you been?
I've been missing, and no one called the police, which I find very concerning. So thank you guys all for caring so much about me.
Yeah, I was in Wegmans the other day. I thought I saw you on the milk carton.
Oh, yeah.
The missing person.
Yeah, don't tell my parents.
All right.
It's worked for 32 years.
Will do. All right, guys. Well, today we're going to talk briefly about the emotions that people are going to go through during the time of a flood and the process of regaining control of the situation. So, to a customer, a flood or a pipe bursting is a traumatic event, regardless of the size. Property owners are shocked at the sight of the damage. You know, the first reaction is, oh no, like, you know, what am I going to do here? Usually how it works out is 25% of people actually try to do will pull up their own sleeves and try to attempt the jobs themselves. So, which we don't recommend.
Well, okay, to an extent, it's a good idea to try to mitigate damage yourself.
True.
But touching your wall and being like, this feels dry, I'm good, is usually not a great idea.
No, definitely not.
I do want to point out that this research that we're referring to here and that we'll talk about in a little bit, it validates our personal experience, but it's not just our personal experience. This was research done by the Bunton Group, which is all of ServPro Corporate's marketing. And they sat down with people, they did focus groups, they did a little bit of market research just to get an idea of, like, what is this experience like? So this is real scientific, actual research. It's not just me and Chris, like, riffing, like it usually is.
Cool. All right. So to further what he was just saying, research shows that, you know, most individuals experiencing any type of damage like this, they're going to feel violated, invaded, and pretty much feel like they're almost robbed of their own life.
Which is kind of like if you've ever known anybody who's like house has been broken into, it's the exact same sort of frame of mind of this was once a kind of safe, secure place, and now it's not anymore. And that can come from something as seemingly innocent as like a burst pipe.
Absolutely.
Can make you feel like that and put you in that frame of mind.
Yep, absolutely. And the most important part of the job is obviously to help the customer. We're trying to put their life back together. Right. That's number one priority, and help them regain control. So, and you need to show empathy and sympathy for people, because you can't just go in there and have no emotion. You got to adapt to the customer, you know, because it is a tough time for them that they're going through. So, and I was going to ask you, Dan, did you have a time where someone called you and they were just beyond stressed and they were just like, you know what, I don't know what to do with myself? Could you give us an example, maybe? I
can give you a recent one, because that sort of factors in here. Okay. There was a fire at the West Side Bazaar downtown on Grant Street, and a friend of mine happens to help to run the place, so he called me when it happened, and I went down there. That was definitely an experience where there was like 90 people standing around.
Oh, yeah.
And nobody really knew what to do. And probably the thing that stresses people the most out when something like that happens, aside from just the initial shock of, oh my God, like, what am I going to do? Because this was a pretty bad fire. They're going to be out of that space for a while. Mm-hmm. Is process. Yeah. That weighs on people's minds. Like, I don't even know where to start with this.
No.
It's this massive problem.
Yeah.
And people are really afraid of making a mistake. Mm-hmm. So, especially with the insurance process. They're afraid that they're going to make a bad decision or use the wrong language when they talk to someone, or they're going to go too far either in the direction of starting to mitigate damage or not starting to mitigate damage. They're trying to find that line, and because they're afraid they're going to compromise their insurance coverage. Yeah. And so when we're talking about these feelings and the way to help people to regain control, and we'll talk a little bit about that, one of the best things you can do is lay out the process for them. Mm-hmm. Lay out, hey, here's what's going to happen next. Here's who's going to be involved in this.
So give them like a step towards the right direction.
Here's where things might slow down. Like, you're waiting for the fire investigation to end. That's going to take some time. Just know that now. Here's what your role is in terms of talking to your adjuster. Laying that process out for people at the beginning. I mean, that's what we did kind of at the West Side Bazaar. Yep. When that feeling of panic was starting to set in, it made a huge difference.
Sure, absolutely. And I also want to share, to further, thank you, Dan, I appreciate that. I had an experience where a couple months ago I went out with a couple of the guys here from work, we went out to a fire job, and the fire had just happened about 3 days prior. And what I could tell he was still a little kind of shooken up by it.
Yeah.
But some time had passed. But one thing he did bring up to me was the stress of having the whole neighborhood basically standing outside, because you're already going through all of this traumatic experience, and then to top it all off, you got your entire neighborhood standing out there in their pajamas. You know? So
it's a bad feeling when like the neighbor, like some 15-year-old punk from down the street, has their phone out and they're filming your house burn down,
and they're putting it on Snapchat,
and they're like, "Oh, like come on, like leave me alone."
Yeah. So, so I just let him kind of talk. I didn't really say much. I just was listening to him for a good 10-15 minutes, and I could visually see by the end of the conversation that he wasn't 100%, but he just wanted to be heard. He wanted someone to understand like what the extent of what really happens, like beyond just the damage of the home.
Yeah, so that's maybe because that's definitely important. People just want to talk.
Yeah.
Nobody listens to you when something like this happens. They just tell you what to do.
Exactly.
So. But that kind of leads into, I know you want to talk about just how do you regain control?
Yeah.
How do you help people get that feeling back? Because that's kind of where the whole like mitigation industry got started. Because the process before, which I think you're going to talk about, is did not have that sort of emotional factor, that panic factor in mind. It was very much like a bad contractor experience.
Exactly. So like, for example, back in the 70s or so, just kind of give you a time frame, when you actually had an emergency like this, the response time was insane.
Like days.
2 or 3 days. And the amount of damage that could happen within those 2 or 3 days could be 4 times what the damage would have been if they would have.
It's massive.
Yeah. It's insane.
Just especially with water, which is kind of the focus here.
Absolutely. So an adjuster would show up, could be, like I said, a day or two. Nowadays, I'm going to get to that in a moment to show you the response time and things like that. But the mitigation professional wants to think that restore first, and then the adjuster construction company arrive. They would demo, but it would take so much longer.
Yeah, and I want to sit there for a sec. Like, imagine you have a fire, or maybe you have a major flood. Your house is ruined, or at least portions of it, and you're waiting there for 3 days for some general contractor to come in and kind of walk around and take notes, and a couple of days later they're going to send you an estimate to basically gut the whole place because it's been waterlogged for 6 days.
Yeah.
How's that going to make you feel versus somebody showing up within an hour or so and they have an entire crew of people who are uniformed and they just start dealing with it?
Exactly.
That's kind of the night and day difference.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why, mitigation is a thing, is because before, there were serve pros and service masters, Puro Cleans, whatever. I will shout out the competition.
Yeah.
All good companies.
Yeah.
Before those companies existed, it was just nobody paid attention to that side.
No,
of things.
they didn't.
The speed and really just how do you make people feel better about this? How do you make them feel like this is going to turn out well? That was not a factor. It was just they were on the contractor schedule.
Like, yeah. But yeah, no, it's just interesting, and they not necessarily to be not qualified for that work, but that's not their area of expertise. You know what I mean? So
yeah, they don't know. That's why they're just cutting everything out, because they don't know how to deal with it otherwise.
Absolutely. And I kind of just wanted to touch base just some of the quotes that I put down here, just to kind of show you what people are thinking as these events are unfolding. And I think, Dan, you mentioned this one earlier. I know I have to take care of it, but I don't know where to start.
Yeah.
That's a good one, because that's very common. That's a very common occurrence. Should I attempt to clean it myself? We went over that as well. Another interesting one that is a huge point is, will my insurance cover? That's usually one of the first questions that comes up, obviously, because people are freaking out, like, how am I going to afford to front this bill?
Yeah.
And my rate's going to go up. And obviously that's going to be depending on the response time. Did you wait a couple days? And, there's going to be a lot of different factors that are going to be determining if your rates do go up.
Right.
So, yeah. And we had a couple photos here.
Oh, yeah. So just to give you guys a sense of, like, the pure panic that would set in. I mean, is this Fort Myers?
This is actually Hurricane Ian. Yeah, this is Fort Myers. Yep.
Which, shout out to our surf crews who are down there. We have a ton of people down there. A lot of folks that we know doing good work, helping people too. Somebody we know personally actually was on CNN, I think, this morning, kind of talking about the whole storm response.
Oh,
so
really?
Shout out to Corey.
Nice.
this sort of devastation. I know you were interested in this one.
This is
just the panic response you would have if this was your car.
$1 million McLaren F1. Yeah. I mean, obviously, if you can afford that car, you could probably afford another one. But it started off in his garage and actually floated down the street. I mean, that's
crazy.
That's just insane.
Obviously, what do I do now? So why is this here again?
This one was here because I was saying people become frustrated. So do not strangle your neighbor.
Yes, don't do this.
Or your caddy, for that matter.
I don't let this be you.
No. Yeah. And so don't be dumb like these guys and think you can handle it yourself. Call in a professional. Get a mitigation team on scene and do it the right way.
Yeah.
And what we're going to do now, we're going to just go and see who our lucky winner is on the wheel spin.
It's time for the wheel. I just want to see who's here with us. Good morning to everybody who's on. Let's get into that wheel. Bring her up. You ready for it?
Yep.
All right, we're spinning. Who we got?
332.
Oh, it's Desiree actually over at Mary Alice U-Balls.
Oh, nice.
Did I say that right? U-Ball? I never asked Mary Alice how to sell it.
I'll ask her when we get there.
Des, if you're watching, we'll get you your prize. Yeah.
Great.
Else you want to say?
No, that was great. Congratulations, and I'll follow up with you in person. Thanks again, guys, for joining us.
You guys got to tell me if I got a hair stick.
You got a fresh cut here today, so.
Oh yeah, but yeah, look at this. I look like Pippi Longstocking.
All right, guys. Well, enjoy the rest of your day, and we will see you next week, Tuesday.
Yeah. See you guys on the next Breakfast with Disaster.